just had to share this because it was a quote I found on Facebook. It says, "The terror of performing never goes away. Instead, you get very, very comfortable being terrified." That was a bonus. It was probably written by Abraham Lincoln. All right, thank you, Gavel Master, Gaveliers, and distinguished guests. One of our main goals when we get up here to speak is that we are believed to be credible. And fear can really inhibit that. Joe Navarro is the author of What Every Body is Saying, an ex-FBI agent's guide to speed reading people. And he says that there is no Pinocchio effect to tell if people are lying or not lying, only to tell if they are comfortable or uncomfortable. And he says that physical presence is really important. 55% of our communication is physical, nonverbal, 38% is our tone, and only 7% is our words. Now, if these are ever in conflict, researchers say that the thing that will most likely be believed is our physical body language. Now, if you know me, you know that I love TED Talks. TED Talks get thousands of hits every day and hundreds of thousands of hits every month. The Science of People, which is a human behavior consultancy group, decided to do an experiment. And they took half the participants and they had them watch TED Talks on mute with no sound. And they took the other half of the participants and had them watch the talk normally with sound. And they asked them the exact same questions. How would you rate the talk overall? How intelligent is the speaker? How charismatic is the speaker? How credible is the speaker? And the results are really remarkable. They found that the group that watched the TED Talk on mute rated the speakers almost exactly like the group that watched the TED Talks with sound. And so it just shows how important our physical presence is when we are communicating. So I want to focus on 6 nonverbals today. And the first one is eye contact. Now, when I was in college, I took a public speaking course. My professor told me to look over the crowd, kind of look at everyone, but don't really look at anyone. And we're finding that that's really bad information. We want to make a connection with our audience. So think land and stay rather than spray. Search for friendly eyes, but ultimately you want to try to make a connection with everyone in a group this size. All right, number 2, breath. Now, breath seems like such a small thing, but it's an incredible way to control your body and to control nervousness. Now, nervous breathing comes from your shoulders. Have you ever seen a speaker come up here and kind of go, it's almost like they're out of oxygen? Well, psychologists have a relaxation technique that they call box breathing. Basically, what you do is you inhale deeply through your nose for a count of 4, and then you hold it for a count of 4. You exhale deeply through your nose for a count of 4, and then you hold that breath out for a count of 4. So I want you to do it with me real quick. Exhale all the air out of your lungs. Now inhale through your nose really deep for a count of 4. And then hold that breath for a count of 4. And then exhale through your nose deeply, all the air out for a count of 4. And then hold that breath out for a count of 4. You can do this while you're waiting to come up here. Do it about 5 times. Just remember, control your breath, control your fear. All right, number 3, facial expressions. Barbara Pease is the author on body language. And she says we only talk for about 10 or 11 minutes a day, but that we make and recognize over 25,000 facial expressions. I want to focus on smiling, because smiling is a powerful cue that communicates warmth, approachability, and it's contagious. And smiling makes you look smarter. Researchers say that people who smile are more likely to be perceived as competent. And remember, that's one of our goals, is to be believed. So imagine half of your face is covered up. You should still be able to tell with your eyes that you're smiling. So give me a beautiful smile. Awesome. Okay, it's authentic, believable smiles. All right, number 4, gestures. The human behavior consultancy group, The Science of People, I mentioned in my introduction, wanted to know, why do some TED Talks go viral and some don't? So what they did was they counted the number of gestures that a speaker used, and they found a correlation between using a high number of gestures and a TED Talk going viral. So think about that. The more gestures that was used, the more popular the talk. Gestures add personality to your presentation. As a rule, don't point. The only people who can point and get away with it are my pastor and Jeremy Burks. All right, number 5, movement. Now, when evaluators come up here, they're always talking about movement. Now, as an audience, I think what we're really looking for is natural movement. because locked behind the lectern is just as distracting as spinning around it. My pastor rarely leaves the lectern, although he does make a ton of gestures, and he gives some of the most compelling and passionate speeches that I have ever heard. So we're looking for natural movement. Now, if you want to incorporate movement into your speech, you can do it with purpose, and there's several ways you can do that. You can move during your transition. So, say I was talking about eye contact, and then I'm going to transition over here, and I'm going to talk about breath. You can also talk about physical places, like within a story. So, for example, I'm in the woods with Little Red Riding Hood over here, and then I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to be in her grandmother's house. You could also replicate action in a story, like you're hitting a baseball. Or if you want to show like a timeline, just remember, if you're showing a timeline, you want to go from your audience's left to right, which is going to be your what? Your right to left. So for example, Jesus was born, and then he was crucified, and on the third day he rose again. You can also use this with ideas. So think bad ideas on the left, good ideas on the right. So for example, this is the way all the other presidents of Gavel Club ran Gavel Club, but as your new president, this is what I'm going to do for you. Remember, you can stand still when you're giving your most important part of your message, and you can even lean in, because leaning in engages your audience, and it conveys warmth, and it also makes them tend to listen as well. Remember, practice your movements when you practice your speech, and they will be more natural. All right, number 6, posture. And people who are confident just tend to take up more space. Amy Cuddy is a social psychologist who is known for her research on nonverbal behavior. And she says that if we pretend to be more powerful, we will be more powerful. She did an experiment, which I've seen talked about now on TED Talks, on NPR, and on 2020. And basically, she focused on 2 hormones. The first is testosterone. Now, if you have high testosterone, you tend to be confident, powerful, opportunistic, assertive. Cortisol, on the other hand, is a stress hormone. So if you have low cortisol, you tend to react better to stress. You think about what you want in a leader. And she focused on 2 poses. So she had groups, one group do low power poses and one group do high power poses. Now, low power poses are when you kind of fold yourself up and you're trying not to take up any space at all. You just want to disappear. You might touch your neck. Have you ever seen anybody at a party like that? High power poses, on the other hand, take up a lot of space. I mean, imagine a confident boss leaning back on their, at their chair with their feet up on their desk. This is called the Wonder Woman pose. I think that's what she's doing right here. And this is called pride. And what's really interesting about pride is research have found that that blind people who get into this stance after winning something, even if they've never seen anybody do it. So it shows how intuitive that we take up space and get big when we're confident. So what she did is she had these groups spit into a vial. She had one group do the low power poses and one group do the high power poses for 2 minutes, just 2 minutes. I'm talking 120 seconds here. And then she had them spit into a vial again, and she measured the difference in these 2 hormones, and the results were absolutely profound. The first group that did the low power poses had a 10% decrease in testosterone and a 15% increase in cortisol, meaning they were less confident and more stressed. But the group that did the high power poses for 2 minutes had a 20% increase in testosterone, more confident, and a 25% decrease in cortisol, which means that they had little stress. Think about that. They literally changed their brains by changing their posture. I'm going to say it again. They literally changed their brains by changing their posture. Imagine how this could affect your speeches. Imagine how this could affect your life. You can do this on the way to Gavel in the bathroom or when you're shaking hands before a meeting. If you want to get better at body language, watch great speakers. There's excellent examples in this class. You could watch your pastor. You can watch TED Talks. You can even consider turning down the volume. Another great technique in overcoming fear is to pray. Pray for your topic. Pray for your audience. Pray for your delivery, your message. Pray for everything. Have someone pray for you before you come up here. I did. Prayer is a powerful way to access a peace that passes all understanding. And most importantly, instead of coming in here with the attitude of, I have to give a speech Monday, I can relate. Come in here instead with the attitude of, guess what, it's my turn. I get to give a speech today because we are blessed to have this club. We are blessed to have Mrs. Nosko. And this is a phenomenal opportunity to learn to be the confident speaker that God needs you to be. Thank you.